It's a summer staple. We're talking about pickles, and Chef Nicole Young is going to show us how to make those without having to wait too long. Here's the recipe.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Taste of the Ozarks. I don't know if you've noticed, but pickles are the flavor of summer this year. There's pickle flavored ketchup. All the TikTok recipes are loaded with pickles. I am gonna show you guys how to make overnight pickles that are crispy and absolutely delicious. They're perfect for your next outdoor cookout, barbecue, or summer party that you get invited to, and they come together so quickly. So first of all, let's talk about our cucumbers. You're gonna need to buy the smaller cucumbers in the grocery store, or if you're growing pickling cucumbers, these are great for this recipe as well. Make sure you wash them really good. We've also got some fresh dill and some fresh garlic, and we're gonna go ahead and move over to the stove to make our pickling liquid, because it's gonna need to have salt, sugar, water, and it's all gonna need to melt together. So we've got our water here almost coming to a boil. You can just see some of the bubbles starting to come up under the bottom. So we are going to put in a ½ cup of sugar into this cup of water, and then we are going to add a ¼ cup of salt. So it's 1 part sugar, or I'm sorry, 1 part salt, 2 parts sugar, 3 parts water to this. And we're just gonna let this boil until that sugar becomes translucent. It shouldn't take more than about a minute. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for that to happen. But just as soon as this has boiled and become translucent, we are gonna turn this off and take it off the heat. At that point, if you're in a super big rush, you can add ice cubes to this just so you can get moving. But if you're not in a super big rush, you can also just let it sit until it comes back to room temperature, because we don't wanna pour hot liquid over our cucumbers. You can see it's clearing up quite a bit more already. We are just waiting for those salt granules at the bottom to clear up, and it looks like we are about there. So we can move back over and talk about our cucumbers really quick. All right, so our liquid has become clear. I'm actually gonna pour this cup of ice in there, and we're gonna let this sit to get nicely cooled down. And while we're doing that, let's talk about these cucumbers here. So I've got a nice tall jar, which is what we're gonna want, because you wanna make sure your cucumbers are no taller than the jar is. I'm gonna cut this little stem off the top of these, but we're gonna quarter each of these. And the reason why that's important is because we're doing overnight pickles. These aren't gonna sit for days and days. They are just gonna sit overnight. So we wanna make sure there's enough surface area for all of that yummy liquid and flavor to get in there. We are gonna start with just a couple of these cucumbers in the jar, because we also want to work in some other flavors, which is things like these fresh garlic cloves that we're just gonna put right down in there. It's gonna add some delicious flavor to it. And what are pickles without some dill? So we're gonna work our fresh dill down into that jar as well. Put a little more garlic on this side and a little more fresh dill on this side. Now that we've got all of that in there, we'll fill it up with the remainder of our cucumbers. And you'll notice we didn't put any vinegar in our mixture back there, because we're gonna actually pour the vinegar straight on top here. So we're just using white distilled vinegar. We're gonna fill up 1/3 of our jar with this distilled vinegar. So depending on how big your jar is, you'll just fill it up 1/3 of the way with the vinegar. And we don't want it too terribly vinegary. We obviously want that delicious vinegar flavor to it, but we don't want it to be overwhelming by any means. So once we've got that vinegar in there, we're gonna make sure that this is nicely cooled down. And if your ice cubes haven't fully melted in here, then you know you're good to go and it's cool enough to pour over your pickles. It might be slightly warm, which is fine. We just don't wanna cook the cucumbers. So we're gonna pour this liquid until our cucumbers are completely covered. We will put a lid over this and we'll let it refrigerate overnight. We have a jar right here that is completed. And you can see they're a little bit darker in color. They've absorbed a little bit of the flavor and started to shrink just a little bit, but these are deliciously crispy. They've absorbed all that wonderful pickle flavor. These might become your new favorite pickles, and they just come together that quickly. So enjoy making homemade overnight pickles, and we'll see you guys next time on Taste of the Ozarks.